What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another video here at The Bad Philosopher. Rick Knight once again, just shooting another video. Ignore the sirens outside. I do live in Brooklyn. Love when that happens when I'm filming a video. Okay, so Senator Kamala Harris of California was recently, I believe today, here in New York City at the Breakfast Club, 105.1. It's a hip hop station here in New York, and you'll get them in other states. They are syndicated. Big hip hop radio station with the host being DJ Envy, Charlamagne the God, and Angela Yee. So Kamala Harris comes on the show and spouts out a bunch of nonsense. I mean, typical. Typical nonsense that you would expect from her: identity politics and talking about civil rights and all the just tired, boring banter coming from people on the left. Same old nonsense. Now, they didn't really probe into her too much. They didn't really grill her too much. They didn't hit her with tough questions. I wasn't expecting DJ Envy to really get tough with her. He's not really known for being tough, a tough interviewer like that. Angela Lee was pretty silent through most of the interview because they weren't speaking about makeup or cosmetics or who's banging who in Hollywood, so she didn't really have much to say. And Charlamagne the God, I'm a little disappointed in because he is known for grilling and asking tough questions. Charlamagne is known for not having any chill and not taking it easy on people, and he's known for speaking out, being a little blunt about a lot of things. He wasn't very blunt. He asked her a few questions here and there that may seem like he was asking a tough question, but it really was just it really wasn't probing in too hard. He'll ask the question. There was quite a few answers that she just danced around the question, and that was it. And he let it go, and he didn't really dig into it too much. So I took some notes here, wrote down a few things that I've noticed in this so-called interview where she pretty much pandered to black people. Is really what she did. Even though she's black herself, it doesn't matter. You can still pander to a group. You can pander to your own group. I mean, this is what politicians do anyway. So here we go with some of the nonsense that Senator Harris spoke about. Okay, she said that she was running for president because she's tired of what's going on with Trump and with this presidency and how terrible the country is and how terrible of a president he is and everything that's going on. And she mentioned like babies being ripped from their mother at the border. She said it's a inhumane act or something like that, or an act against humanity, but failed to mention, or anyone on that show failed to mention about the real babies being ripped from the mother in abortions, like what's going like the new bill that was passed here in New York State by Governor Cuomo, that late-term abortions is fine, and like the other idiot, Governor Ralph Northam in Virginia, who thinks it's perfectly okay to murder newborn babies. That part we skipped. She also failed to mention that these children being taken away from the mother is because the mother illegally crossed the border. It is a misdemeanor crime. It is a crime that you will be arrested for. Children do not get arrested, so the mother gets arrested and the children don't. It's no different from if there was a warrant for my arrest and the cops came to my door right now to get me and they kicked the door down, they will arrest me. And if there was kids in this home, they will rip these kids away from me, right? I'll be ripped out of the home in handcuffs, taken to prison, and the kids will end up, if someone is not here to take care of the kids, or a neighbor or family or something like that, the kids will end up going with the children's services someplace to maybe foster care or something like that while I'm incarcerated. She spoke about poor economics. I don't know what poor economics she's talking about. The GDP is very high. The unemployment is as low as it's ever been. The stock market is as high as there ever been. We have new trade deals. I don't know what she's talking about this economic. This is just propaganda that she's spouting out to the low IQ people who actually listen to that garbage show. What else she said? She said when asked about from Charlamagne about how does she something about how do you think people will perceive you, or something to that effect, that you were a prosecutor and that you locked people up, and she said she's not going to apologize for putting people in jail, which she shouldn't have to. Prosecutors are there to pretty much put you in jail when you get arrested. When you commit a crime and you get arrested and you go to jail, that's what the prosecutor is there for, to arrest you. Now, later on, she mentioned something else about that, and I'll touch on that as well. I do think sometimes it is a little unfair with some of these prosecutors because they put their career before anything, and they don't see each individual person who was arrested as someone who could have just made a minor error, or maybe they are falsely accused, which is not most of the times it is people just doing dumb shit and they get arrested, or people doing really, really, really bad stuff and they go to jail. But sometimes you get good people who do get into trouble, and prosecutors don't care because they focus on their career and they just want to convict as many people as they can for their own personal goal, for their own career. So, whatever comes out of her mouth when she says, well, I was putting away, I want to apologize because I arrested, I put away men who were, child molesters and rapists and stuff like that, and murderers. And yeah, that's all fine and dandy. I agree with her 100%. And I would agree with any prosecutor that prosecuting a murderer or a rapist or a child abuser in any way is a very noble thing. But I wonder how many people were incarcerated, and she was the prosecutor, and they were there for a lot, for minor offenses that maybe there could have been another route other than prison, and she still went for, she went for the jugular. She went for the throat anyway. But let's not talk about it. Let's move on. Okay. She claims to have had some re-entering initiative, some program that helped people when they come out of jail, to help them, I guess, reassimilate into society. And she said other DAs said to her, how could you do, supposed to put people in jail, not help people get out. And, now she's, trying to front like she's this maverick. She was going against the grain, and she was edgy, and she was trying to, save the community, but doing it from the inside, and just nonsense. Listen, you were a prosecutor who got that job because you were in a relationship with Willie Brown, who's the former San Francisco mayor. That recently came out as well, that you had an affair with him, even though he was married. Granted, he wasn't with his wife no longer. I get it. I'm not, I'm not, a super good a super good doer that I don't realize, recognize that, relationships end, even though the legal marriage is still there, but the relationship is over. People move on. I get it. I'm not going to touch on that. But he was known for being with a lot of women, and you were just another one. And it was also reported, according to Willie Brown, he gave her a BMW. He helped her with her career. So, this looks like some straight up gold digging shit, to be honest with you, is what she did. She had to do whatever she had to do to get ahead in her career. Do you really think that we believe her? Any sensible person believes that she was really trying to help people come out of prison? She had this whole reformed act or something with people, to get them out of jail and re-assimilate them into society, or whatever the case may be. I just don't believe that. I don't believe that she was trying to put people in jail just to help them get out. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And, it's just more nonsense, more pandering for votes. She also said that she wants to get rid of bail. It's not fair that some people get arrested and they have the means to get out of jail, to post bail, while others don't. It's actually very fair that some people have the means to post bail and other people don't, for the simple fact that some people earn more money. People earn a better living. People do better with savings. People do better with creating a life for themselves than others. Therefore, they have the finances to help get them out of jail, where poor people who don't have the means to put up money to get out of jail. I mean, pretty much it's this: don't go to jail. It just don't get arrested. How about that? Could you just not get arrested? Could you just not go to jail? How often does someone go to jail for being wrongfully accused? Now, it does happen, but I'm willing to bet that most people who get arrested, they get arrested because they actually did something wrong. Just don't go to jail. Don't get arrested. You wouldn't have to worry about getting, reaching for bail. So she says when she's president, she wants to change all that. And she wants to, I guess, some initiative to, for people to be able to make bail. It's like, we tried that here in New York City. I think it was the Robert Kennedy Foundation here posted bail for every single female and every single minor under the age of 18 for that, posted bail on their behalf so they can come out, because it's not fair that they're in jail and others are not. One of the women who was released on this Robert Kennedy Foundation nonsense ended up right back in jail a week later when she committed like a robbery and an assault or whatever the case may be. So, I mean, it's just, look, they're in jail for a reason. I mean, this is just nonsense. It really is. What else she said? She said No mother and father should have to sit down and tell. This is when they were talking about racial disparities, whatever, in America, and it's civil rights nonsense once again. And she says no mother or father should have to sit down to their 12-year-old and tell them that they might be killed or go to jail for being a person of color or something. They shouldn't have to. And you know what? You're 100% right. Nobody should have to sit down and explain to their child that this might happen to you. That's because most people do a better job raising their kids that they wouldn't have to tell their kids that you might go to jail. Don't commit a crime. You don't go to jail. Stay out of the streets. You know what I mean? Don't involve yourself in street stuff and gangs and stuff like that where you can end up getting killed. Just avoid that. But that's not what she meant. She meant that she will, that their child might be killed or arrested just for being black by the police. This is exactly what she meant. Meanwhile, she built a career on putting black men in prison who was arrested. So it's just a contradiction from her. It just doesn't make much sense, although she is a leftist. So again, she would not make sense. But no, if you actually look through the data, if you look through like the FBI Table 21, I think it is, you can see the level of the disparities between the black and white community when it comes to crime, when it comes to death. With a homicide, it appears that black men are 6% of this country. They're responsible for over 52% of the murders every year. A much higher crime rate in their community, higher rates of violence in their community. Therefore, it would cause more policing. It would cause more interaction between the police and the community. Therefore, you will have more arrests. You will have more issues. Chalking all this up to race is just not only is it not fair, it's not true, it's ignorant, and you're pushing a narrative that doesn't need to be pushed because all you're doing is causing more boundaries between us. That's all you're doing. You're amping people up, you're getting them excited, you're getting them to, you're agreeing with the narrative that, people being targeted because of their race, and then it causes people, to either lash out or people to look at us funny. It causes people to use us as an easy way out for why their life sucks. And it's not fair. And this is, you want to talk about what's presidential material. This is definitely not presidential material because you're supposed to help build a bridge between us, not a gap. And this is all that's coming out of her mouth is nothing but gaps. Okay, Charlemagne the God asked her about the meme of her locking up more black men than anyone, and she just pretty much danced around the issue. Her answers was very vague. It just wasn't, it's just whatever she said had nothing to do with the question that he asked her. She just moved on, and he didn't even probe into it more and say, no, stop. This is what I want to know. Did you or did you not lock up more black men than anyone else? That's what we want to know. That's what the meme is. That's what people are saying on the internet. What do you have to say about that? And she just danced around it. Go on and on. I mean, she says that racial bias is the reason that there's a higher mortality rate with black children in this country. Again, just more of the, oh, woe is me, I'm a person of color. Saying that in the hospitals there's a bias against black people, black women in the hospitals, and it leads to more medical malpractice and higher mortality rates in children in the black community than in the white community. And it's like, did you take the second to really look into anything or to think of other possibilities or to look at it from another perspective, another angle, or no? Do you just from the onset shoot to race, gender, sexuality, which we know is the holy grail for the left? That is the holy trinity of grievance for the left is those three things. That's their starting point, that's their middle, and that's their ending. And that's everything to them. Did you look at the fact that black people in this country, for the most part, go to city ran hospitals in terrible neighborhoods where malpractice is higher than any other hospital? You don't get good care. You're dealing with a government ran hospital where they're always, financially always at a loss. There'll definitely never be any good doctors or good nurses in these hospitals. They rather work someplace else where they can make more money. these type of hospitals are low-hanging fruit hospitals of the medical profession. Not far from here, from where I live, we have Coney Island Hospital, which is known as one of the worst hospitals in the city of New York. This hospital is pretty much shared by everyone, people in my community, which is a predominantly Russian community. You do have you have a lot of Asians out there also live in this community. You have a lot of Jewish people live in this community. If you go down to the next community over, Brighton Beach, you have, it's mostly all predominantly Russians. We do have some Mexicans on both sides of the border, border of the neighborhood. No pun intended. If you go on to the next neighborhood over, you have Coney Island. You will also have Gravesend, where you'll have more Black and Hispanic. But either way, it's a very diverse range of patients going to Coney Island Hospital, and it is known for one of the worst hospitals in the city. I know a retired police officer who was awarded a large sum of money from Coney Island Hospital because he went there, he wasn't feeling very well one day, and he went there and he was misdiagnosed. They sent him home. A day or two later, he ended up having emergency surgery, had a very bad infection that went from his kidney to his heart. He had open heart surgery. He almost died. It was a very, very, very bad experience for him. It took him a few years to recover. He eventually went back to work and was on desk duty for the last year or two until he was able to retire from the NYPD, and he was awarded a large sum of money, and he is not the only one, and he's white. I mean, it's just, this is what happens in these types of hospitals. That's why those hospitals are what they are. I mean, first of all, it's a government-ran hospital, so you know it's going to be ran like shit. You know it's going to have a lot of problems. This has nothing to do with race, gender, sexuality, plain and simple. But, hey, narrative, folks. It's all about the narrative. So let's see. There's more. There's a few more things. I'm not going to really go into it. It was like a 45 minute long interview, and I just kind of gave up about 30 something minutes in. My head was spinning. I couldn't do it anymore. Okay. She also said about identity politics. People they say to her and they say to people on her side, you're playing identity politics just to shut them up. And then she turns around and she plays identity politics. The entire interview was nothing more than an interview of identity politics. Everything that came out of her mouth was something that you expect to come out of her mouth anyway. It was just, the contradiction was just right there in our face. She went on doing exactly what we knew she was doing, and then she turned around and said, but don't call it identity politics. You're just trying to shut me up. And then she just continued with her identity politics. I mean, the hypocrisy is just chart-topping stupid. What else? She also said she did research, and most homicides victims are high school dropouts. Most men in prison are high school dropout, and it's a higher rate with black men being high school dropouts and then ended up in prison and stuff like that. And she blames all of this on being a high school dropout. That's why she had that truancy initiative where, I seen an interview about that recently. She said something about, arresting the kids and the parents. But in this interview, she said no one was arrested. And she said it's the high school dropout rate that's causing this. People who drop out of high school tend to do this and that and this and that, and that's what she wants to stop. It's very noble. Yes, we should do something to prevent kids from dropping out of high school. We should do the best we can to make sure people get a good education, although I'm not sure if they can get a good education, at least in the public school, because it is all postmodernist and Marxist nonsense, intersectionality nonsense. They're peddling socialism and communism. They're peddling all the leftist talking points, and you're better off with either homeschooling or private schooling. I know private schooling is too expensive. Most of us can't afford it, but to be honest, you're getting a really, really worthless education with government education. It's just the way it is. It's a factor. Government education is only good to help teach students how to read and write. Past that, you can send them anywhere, and it'll be much better than a public education. Public education is pretty trash. Not to mention the fact that the reason, I would like to go one step further. I would like to establish first cause and say, don't worry about the crime rate. Don't worry about the incarceration rate. Don't worry about the high school dropout rate. Now, all this goes from, this is the end of the spectrum where they're either killed or they're arrested. That's at the very end. That's at the very extreme. And as you count backwards, and it's like, okay, you were arrested or killed because you were involved in this. right? You were involved in this because this is your lifestyle. This is what you do, right? You do this because this is what you learned. This is what you were taught. This is how you were raised, or this is this and that. And then we go, but that, you were raised this way or that way, that you were taught this way, you ran with this crowd or this, because you dropped out of high school. So it all in first cause in her belief, right, is that it's dropping out of high school. But I would like to say there's a first cause to that. Why did they drop out of high school? Why are people dropping out of high school? And I would like to say that most high school dropouts have no dads. Most of them come from a single parent home. Single parent home also leads to a economic disadvantage. It also leads to children being raised in poor neighborhoods where there's high crime. Don't have access to a lot of different things. Not only education, but they don't get access to employment and opportunities and programs that can help them. They will have a higher opportunity to join gangs and do dumb shit and get into trouble in the street. They tend to have children at a younger age with sometimes multiple people, not marriage, and all the disparities that come, and we can all trace all this to single dads. This is an issue not only with the black community, but also with the white community, with the Spanish community. That's just the way it is. But she doesn't want to, she can't accept that, because if she accepted that, she would have to realize that the single parent rate in the black community is much, 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 much higher than in the white community. So she would rather say the high school dropout rate, because I don't hold me on this one, but I believe that they're a little closer. I mean, I'm a high school dropout. I eventually went back to my GD and now I'm in college, but it's and I also grew up most of my life with no dad. So and my dad left before I graduated high school, before I would have graduated high school. So what came first, right? The chicken or the egg? But no, the problem with her seems to be it's not that the dads are not around. It's not that there's something like 73% of black moms are single parents. No, that's not the issue. No. It's that the kids are dropping out of high school because they don't need a dad. I mean, I don't need no man. I'm a strong, independent black woman. I don't need no man. And that's the narrative of the left. It's my body. I'll do what I want. I'll just kill the baby if I want to. But then they're mad when the baby dies in the hospital anyway by malpractice because the woman has to go to some crappy city-ran hospital that's ran like shit. Just everything that she spoke about was just nonsense. It really was, and I don't even know what to say at this point. She's running she's a candidate for the 2020 election coming up. I don't think her odds are very good. I don't think her message is going to resonate with a lot of voters. She might get away with some of the identity politics of the day. Once she enters in the debate, I think that's when we're going to see what she's about. Once her ideas are scrutinized, once she's forced to answer the questions that she was able to dodge around in this interview with 105.1, I think that's when. That's when we're going to see what she's really about. That's when we're going to see if her ideas, if they hold water or not. I don't think she's going to do very good. I think she's going to be. My prediction is she will be amongst the first group, the first wave of candidates that get bumped off early on in the election. It's possible she makes it to the middle. I mean, it's possible she wins. I mean, it is what it is. But I think her identity politics can only get her so far, and even within her own voting base. Once the election kicks off, and now you have people throughout the country, not just people in inner cities that can vote, I don't think she's going to do very well, especially if she's up against socialist Bernie Sanders and some of the other people. You also have Cory Booker, who put his hat in the ring, and he's going to have his own set of identity politics to play off of. And the like. So we'll see, but I don't think she's going to do very well in this election. I don't think she's going to be the candidate of the left, let alone the president of the United States. Hopefully not, because once you get into office and you play identity politics, it's like you can't deal with the small issues as a president of the United States. You're dealing with the larger issues. You're dealing with the whole country. You're not just dealing with black people. You're dealing with all people, not only dealing with all of Americans, but you're also dealing with a lot of international. I mean, obviously, you're going to be dealing with a lot of international issues, being that you're the president of the United States. Your message has to be for all. It has to include all. It has to be for a better America, period, regardless of the skin color of anyone. It has to be for ways of working with other nations, building good relationships with other nations. How we can create a win-win situation with us and them, and protecting the country. And I mean, it's just so much involved that if you run on this platform of identity politics, with civil rights and black issues and women issues and LGBTQ, R2D2, C3PO issues and all that stuff, it's just not going to resonate with most of the people in the country that are looking at the situation. They're looking at the bigger fish and not the small fry. So, well, that's all I got today. Please comment, like, share, hit subscribe, hit the bell, and I will see you in the next video.